Now, what is the first thing that your minds think about when I say the phrase developing country? This is a genuine question, by the way, because I'm from the Dominican Republic, and I've had Americans ask me if we had TVs down there, if we had cars. It seems weird to me that the US has had such a long involvement in Latin America. You know, the usual, some trade embargoes, military interventions here and there. Yet, now that I'm here in the US, it's almost as if all of that was a sort of secret. Whenever I tell my gringo friends that my country has been invaded by the US twice in the past, I wouldn't say they're surprised, but it's definitely a revelation to them. Let's think, how much do you know about the countries in Latin America? Apart from Cancun and Punta Cana, what even is in Latin America? What's the history of the countries down there, their culture, their people, their lifestyle, their values, their problems? A surprising number of students here, when I told them where I was from, answered me with, "Oh, I've been to your country once, on a mission trip." I was unaware of how popular this was. When I say mission trips, I am referring to those short-term travels organized by a religious institution targeted towards non-specialists, like teenagers and young adults, with the purpose of helping those in need. One guy stood out to me, because when I asked him, which city he had been to, he responded nonchalantly with, "Oh, I don't remember, we painted a school or something." There seems to be this ideology that the global south is this deeply, deeply underdeveloped place. They don't know what a TV is, much less a car. They cannot paint their own schools. They need intervention from first world countries to be saved. If this act of saving were viewed as a business, we would say it's booming. I think it's necessary that we start talking about mission trips for what they really are, an unsustainable form of neo-colonization. Now, hear me out. We all know the story. Spanish missionaries were an essential aspect of America's colonization, converting indigenous communities into their religion and stripping them away from their culture. Now, comparably, participants of missionary trips will use the excuse of helping those in need in order to spread their religion without consent. Look at how they themselves define their mission trips. Their purpose is first and foremost to spread their faith, share their gospel, bring salvation to these marginalized communities that are especially vulnerable to the outside religious influences, and then help them. Participants of these missionary activities are sometimes unaware of how they are perpetuating these centuries-long imperialistic tendencies. They just want to travel and help, but they are also being taken advantage of. Missionaries help spread harmful ideologies that are often the very same that we judge developing nations so harshly for. Homophobic tendencies, discrimination to other religions, misogyny, these are all beliefs that have been spread in countries like mine by missionaries for centuries. Right-leaning pastors and religious leaders are often personally trained and mentored by US conservative missionaries. These pastors and leaders then go on to influence the vulnerable common public, leading them to condemn things like homosexuality or abortion. Now you're gonna tell me, I'm being too exaggerated. You had a friend who went on a mission trip, you saw the pictures on Facebook. They just helped some families and played with some kids. It wasn't a big deal. The desire to help that comes from these missionaries is often, low-key, a selfish one. We've all seen the pictures of those one-time volunteering trips where they're hugging the children and playing with them, and it all looks so wholesome and Instagrammable. In the caption, they explain how this trip changed their lives forever. But what happens to the kids in the pictures after the volunteers leave? Their lives are also being changed forever. While some volunteers' Instagram keep increasing, so do the lasting psychological effects that the children are often left with, because they connect so deeply with these volunteers who then leave them in 2 weeks, harming their ability to form secure attachments for the years to come. While you're there, sure, the children may really seem to enjoy your attention, but I ask again, think of what happens after you leave. After the kids have been used as a sort of prop for performative activism in some social media post, a source of a moral salvation story, almost as if romanticizing the poverty that exists within these countries. Missionaries want to go help the problems of developing countries without understanding what their people go through. By going on mission trips, you're basically telling the people of the area they cannot fix their own problems. I mean, come on, they don't even know what a TV is. It ends up building this reliance mentality among the locals, an unhealthy dependence. And as time passes and more volunteer groups come along, it creates a common feeling of self-doubt and humiliation. And eventually, an acceptance of an inferiority that does not even exist. When Honduras was hit by Hurricane Mitch, US mission trips rushed to help rebuild the homes destroyed. I mean, how can you see these pictures and not want to go help? They were so brave and admirable. But then you learn that they spent $30,000 per home, while the locals could have built them for $3,000 each. That's a 10-to-1 ratio. You start then to question their intentions. In their defense, they probably didn't even know they could have built them for less, because they didn't connect with the locals. Missionaries go to fix the problems of developing countries without understanding the history and the context behind them. Because of how we talk about Latin America, they have been led to believe that the locals don't know any better and that they need to be saved. The disabling of the local community, the promotion of hateful ideologies, the negative effect on children, those are the consequences we don't talk about mission trips. Social sustainability means the capacity of a community to provide a safe, healthy, and equitable environment for their future and their current members. In sustainable development discussions, social sustainability receives considerably less attention than environmental or economical, even though all three areas must be focused on if we want to achieve a lasting sustainable society. Because of the threat that mission trips pose to the safety, health, and culture of the communities they visit, we must start to see them, consider them, and talk about them for what they are: unsustainable. Now, I believe that most of those who choose to partake in these missionary activities do so with good intentions, and they are simply malinformed and are not aware of the negative repercussions of their actions. Their passion for learning about other culture and helping those in need is being taken advantage of by the imperialist missionary industry. I want people to realize the negative effect they have on these countries so they may choose a better way to help. So what can we do? You do not need to travel very far to help a Latin American community in need. You can help by volunteering or donating at a local nonprofit. We live in such a diverse city with the presence of many communities. Let's make it a more inclusive city too. Let's actively learn, or let's actively work on learning more about Latin America, about the Global South. Visit the local restaurants and shops, talk to the people there. Be open into questioning everything you thought you knew about these countries. What if you really want to help a specific developing country? It is by far more helpful and efficient to fundraise the money and donate it instead of using it to buy tickets for a mission trip. If a community in the DR really needs a new school, then use the donated money to hire a local contractor and stimulate that region's economy instead of sending missionaries to build it. Use the donated money and give it to a local nonprofit in that country. Sure, these options are not as Instagrammable, I'll give you that, but they are sustainable and actually helpful in the long run. If you're a specialized professional, a doctor, a teacher, an engineer, by all means, come aid us, but make sure your focus is on solving the problem with us, not for us. With this knowledge we now have, comes the responsibility to do better, to start supporting developing nations sustainably. Let's shift the way we talk about Latin America. Yes, it has its problems, but we also have the potential to come up with the solutions. Latin America does not need to be saved. It needs to be empowered. Thank you.